right. Sybilla Irwin, welcome to the Edge Television broadcast.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
All right. Well, I mean, the sound is excellent and got a good video going there. And I see, Sybilla, there is a creature. I don't mean to scare you, but over your shoulder there's a creature there. What is that?
It's a Sasquatch.
Oh, yes, Sasquatch, eh? Okay. Hey, let me get this started real quick though. What is a Sasquatch and a Bigfoot the same thing?
Yes, sir.
And Yeti, I suppose, is in that category.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just Yetis in Australia.
What about the abominable snowman?
That's over in Nepal,
Okay. Wow.
Asia.
You've done your research. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Isabella, tell us, why did you get started into the researching? And I see that you're a member, of course, of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization yourself as a
Yes, sir.
researcher. What got you started into that?
Uh, just an interest as a child. Oh, I love the mug that you have. You're drinking. We have those at the museum. They're awesome.
It's what's in it that counts. So, hey, if you're going to have a show
So
like this,
I was just always interested as a child in cryptids of all kinds. And I saw the Patterson footage probably when I was 12 or somewhere around in there. I'm giving away my age. But, I knew from the moment I saw that footage that that was a real creature. I never doubted for a moment that that was someone in a costume. And then I found the BFRO website in probably 2000. And I was just compulsive about reading all the reports. I was living in Texas at the time, and I read all of Texas reports, and then I started reading the surrounding states. And finally, in 2005, they started offering expeditions, and I told everyone if they came to Texas, I was go. And I invited people to go with me, and nobody would, so I went by myself.
wow, well, you know what? Sometimes you just have to strike out by yourself. Certainly, there's a skeptical populace out there, and when you do face skepticism that borderlines on criticism and then borderlines on insults, how do you deal with
Right.
that?
Uh, after you've seen these creatures and you've researched them, you get to the point where you don't really care. I don't care what people think anymore. I mean, I have family members of mine that make fun of me, brothers.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't, the interesting thing is, I know that my brothers know about my integrity, and they know that my word is good. If I say something happened, then it happened. But when I can say that I've seen one of these creatures, they're like, nah. Yeah, you did. It's the weirdest thing.
In your family, how many how many brothers and sisters you have?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. I'm in the middle.
Okay, so do any of them believe?
My younger brother does. He reads BFR reports and follows me. And my sister, I think she's kind of on the edge.
On the
I have
edge.
3 children, and they believe me.
Well, I'm on the edge, and if you convince me, then I'll go out Bigfoot hunting. But we'll
Oh,
get
you
to,
should come with me.
okay. Well, we'll get to that later. Um, so you deal with skepticism, and but you press on, and that does take some internal fortitude and some amount of what the hell is it? Like, I don't care what you say, but you press on, and is it a personal mission for you?
Absolutely. After my first expedition, I it kind of changed my molecules. I know that's going to sound really strange. And you're probably going to put one of those bubbles up that says, "Did she really just say that?"
No, I would never do
No,
that.
no, but really, I left there. There you go.
Okay.
No, but I left there a different person. I left there kind of having a sense of knowing what I'm supposed to do. And almost like that, everything up in my life at that point had prepared me for that moment, to do this kind of research. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So that's in sort of the field of cryptids. Is
Yeah.
that the singular, your sort of singular mission of exploration into that sort of esoteric subject, or is there other things that you research as well?
At first, it was just Bigfoot, but I've also been working with some people who have seen Dogman. So I'm kind of branching out. The thing is that witnesses they need help. They need people they can talk to that believe them. And I'm, I feel very blessed that witnesses are willing to work with me because it's very challenging. It takes a lot of courage to visit to visit with me, to work with me. It takes hours, and I ask a tremendous amount of detailed questions. And yeah, that's
Hmm.
the image that you have up there is a man from Oklahoma, and this was a daytime sighting.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I have various pictures we'll show. And by the way, for those watching the program, these are sketches from Sybilla will be just showing off and on during the program here tonight, and
yeah.
so they can look at them. And occasionally, I don't know if you'll see it. You'll be actually out of the picture, and we'll have the full picture of those sketches. Now, so did you train for these sketches that we're going to be seeing?
No, I'm an artist. I've been drawing since I was probably 5 years old. And then I started drawing portraits of people also, and animal portraits. Horses are like a particular favorite, and birds. Um, and what happened is after I became a BFRO member, one of the other investigators had a woman that he was working with. She had an image that was slightly like what she had seen, but it needed alteration, and he asked me if I could do it. So I did, and that kind of started the whole me drawing witness sketches after that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So
So now, have you been called? Do people like call you up and say,
yes,
could you draw this? You
yes,
describe it.
yes, and a lot of BFRO investigators will reach out to me when they're working with a witness who's gotten a really good look at the face,
Hmm.
especially daytime.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and
Hmm.
then I get contacted by people on Facebook as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What percentage of the population do you think believes in Bigfoot?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think a lot more people believe than have come forward. I think there's a lot of sightings that have never been reported and probably never will. I think the BFR only gets maybe 5% of the sightings. I'm working in a museum called Expedition Bigfoot in
Hmm.
Cherry Ridge, Georgia. In fact, that's where I am right now. And you would be amazed at how many witnesses walk in every day.
Wait a minute.
Sometimes 3 people a day.
Where are you at?
Cherry Log, Georgia. It's in northern Georgia. It's a museum called Expedition Bigfoot.
Hmm.
4,500 square feet of incredible museum. It's incredible. Yeah.
Is anything that people can buy down there?
There's a beautiful gift shop. Yeah. And that little tiki mug that you have,
Yeah.
we've got those.
I think what people need to know about the mug is be careful not to turn it around. What? I don't know about that.
Can you get the little butt cheeks?
Whoa. Okay. Hey, I mean, if you rub that, maybe a little genie come out of there. I don't know. And then we get on with. Hey, floor worker out of the live chat. So, what part of Texas are you from?
I'm originally from south of San Antonio, a little town called Devine, Texas. I'm a graduate of Texas A&M University.
Okay, so you're an educated woman, and yet you seem to believe in creatures running in the forest. Um, Sybilla, now,
Yeah.
if you'd like to explain that, I mean, how do you get into classical education and come away with the idea that there are other things that the general system says can't possibly exist?
Well, I kind of grew up in a home that had some paranormal things going on. So uh, when you're raised that way and you're experiencing things that are kind of outside the box, then you have an open mind because you know what you saw, you know what you heard, you know
Hmm.
what you felt.
Hmm.
So I've always had an open mind.
Hmm.
I have that kind of a bent.
Well, you just said a key word there. You said you had. Uh, I guess I can go three different ways on that one. But you had something happen in your house. What was that?
It was haunted.
Okay, well, just
Yeah.
tell us
So
what went on.
there
What
was
are you talking
there
about?
was something in that my sister and I both experienced and never really talked to anybody about until we were much older. There was some kind of a presence in the room that we stayed in, and it was real scary. Yeah.
Okay, well, I still want to go deeper there because obviously it was a turning point in your life, or at least you begin to believe that there are other things going on. So, did it move objects? Did you see it? Did it touch you? Did anybody else see it?
It, some people talk about sleep paralysis and finding yourself out of your room at night. Uh, so I had kind of this kind of the UFO experience as well as the haunted house thing.
Okay, so you got UFOs flying around, you got ghosts in the house. Uh, I'm not sure it'd be a lot of fun over there. Well, I guess it'd be a scary thing. All right, so did you see a UFO?
I have seen, yes, even in broad daylight with 9 other people on a BFRO expedition.
Okay, and what did the UFO look like?
It was a silver like sphere. Yeah. It was headed from west to east.
Hmm.
9 of us were watching it with our binoculars. No vapor trail, no wings, no tail, nothing hanging below it. Just we all watched this thing until it got to about a north position, and then it looked like it paused. But actually, what had happened is it made a 90-degree turn and headed north, and then disappeared.
Hmm.
That was broad daylight.
All right. Did you uh, did you feel like the craft was big enough to hold entities in it, or was it a small thing? I mean,
Yeah, it was hard to tell because we were up at about 12,000 feet elevation, and it's kind of hard to tell what elevation it was at or actually what size it was. Um,
okay. And so this object, did you feel like it was doing anything? Do you feel like it was looking at people, or just doing recon for the mothership? Or all right.
yeah, it would be an assumption. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. All right. So a number of people corroborated that that
Yeah.
was okay. And then as far as the ghost goes, how did you deal with that?
Um, I just never told anybody about it.
Hmm.
I didn't know that anybody else was experiencing it either until my sister and I were much older. We were sitting at a table one evening, and she mentioned that she used to just stand up on her bed and run out of that room like her life depended on it. And I had done the same thing multiple times and never told anybody.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So you became a believer in UFOs and ghosts. Now, do you think those were laying the foundations for you to believe in something else?
Yes. Yeah,
All right.
I do.
And so what was so? Give me again the first time that you heard about a Bigfoot, or that you were convinced that they exist. What event was that?
Well, the Patterson footage, I was totally convinced by then.
That was a
But
singular.
after I started reading report after report after report on the BFRO website, when you read a report from Northern California and you read a report from southeastern Oklahoma, and they're reporting the same behaviors and they're reporting the same creatures, and these people don't know each other, but what they're reporting is the same and the same patterns again and again. All these people can't be lying.
Mhm.
I mean, what would be the point? They have nothing to gain,
Well, that's the same. That could be applied to UFOs and ghosts as well.
right? And
Now,
most of the people that are filing reports and having these sightings, they weren't out there looking for Bigfoot. They were just driving or hunting or fishing or, going about their lives.
mhm.
They weren't looking for Bigfoot.
uh, we have a question from Philip who lives in Georgia, and he asked the question, "Why a museum in Georgia?"
Because the owners of the museum live here.
Well, okay. Why did? Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
is Georgia? And I guess I'm assuming North Georgia. Is that known for Bigfoot activity?
It is. It's a hot spot up here in northern Georgia. Yeah. In fact, we had to put a map up in the museum because there's so many people coming in telling us about their sightings around the museum.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Uh, well, I can't say I disbelieve any of this really because I have my own Bigfoot story. We'll talk about here after a bit here. A floor worker who's watching from our streaming YouTube channel says he believes you, but he asked the question: Have you ever heard of something called Hat Man?
I have not.
What about Slender Man?
Is that kind of a UFO shadow man kind of thing?
Well, I think it's along the line of Shadow Man. I think it's no Slender Man. Actually, some kind of weird Facebook something happened. Some two girls. Somebody may chime in on the live chat here, but I think two girls or somebody they actually killed somebody because they thought either he was the person they killed was Slender Man or something. But I guess it's all about man. I guess it's kind of sexist. But what about the shadow people? Well, I guess no shadow people. It can go either way. It just didn't say shadow man. But what about shadow people?
Have I ever seen one?
Hmm.
I have seen like a shadow figures. Yeah, I've seen those move. I have lived in fact, the home I just moved out of about 6 months ago had a lot of paranormal activity
Hmm.
in it. Things move by itself and stuff like that.
Hmm. I think if people were honest, they may not believe in Bigfoot, say UFOs, whatnot, but I think everybody has had paranormal experiences, and like yourself, maybe just kind of internalize it, not really say anything about it, and maybe hope
Right.
that it never really even happened, and then later question if ever it did happen. But so I wouldn't be so quick to judge if I was a skeptic out there. If people think about their own lives, I certainly have had numbers of paranormal, and I guess that's kind of a loaded word. That scares some
Right.
people off. They think you think automatically you're dealing with demons or something. But I mean, there's paranormal as if there is something. There's another world. I think there are places that what I had a guest on the show described as thin places, which
Right.
is a place where maybe the two dimensions are really close, and maybe things get gray in there, and things maybe
Right.
move from one end to the other, and I guess if we move in that direction, we might describe it as missing time, and that would be one effect of it. Azur out of the YouTube chat asked this question: Do you think a Bigfoot is a direct descendant of fallen angel experimentation?
Uh, there's a lot of people who do think they're related to the Nephilim. Um, I personally haven't researched the Nephilim enough to say. Um, the longer you do this, to me, the weirder it gets, and the less that you feel like you know. I really do not know what these things are. And when I'm working with witnesses, I already ask them. I always ask them, "What do you think? I mean, you saw this thing. You looked in its face and its eyes. What do you think this thing is?" And most people haven't a clue. I mean, they know what they saw. They know what it's not. They know it's not a gorilla. It's not an animal. They know it's a sentient being. They look in their eyes. There's obvious intelligence. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but still, I mean, and I've seen them too. It's like I don't know what they are.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't know if I'd want to look at one of his eyes. It seems to me now the sketch that you drew that's behind me now, I'm not sure I'd want to be around this thing because he
Yeah,
seems a
it
little
was.
angry.
Yes, this was an amazing witness sighting. This man was driving out to his parents had both passed away, and he was driving out to look at this property. Nobody'd been out there for 5 years to ascertain whether he wanted to keep it or not or sell it.
Hmm.
And so he's driving out there early in the morning. It's a rough road. He's in a car. He probably should have been in a four-wheel drive. So he's coming around a corner really slowly. The sun is up, but he still has his headlights on. And as he comes around the corner, his headlights, he sees something in the middle of this, rocky road, and he thinks it's a little bear. So he honks its horn, and out of the right-hand side, this female kind of erupts out of the woods. And in one step, she's in the middle of the road. And an average mom will swoop her child up, like this way to carry it.
Hmm.
This thing took its arm and slung this baby on her back. And it grabbed the hair on her shoulders and drew its knees up. And then in another step, she was off the road and down. And so the man was so shocked. I mean, in 2 seconds, this female was there, grabbed the baby, and was gone. He stopped the car. He got out, and he's standing by his open door, just standing there listening and trying, kind of in shock. What did I just see? And he's listening, and he can hear her moving on. And the next second, a rock hits the hood of this vehicle, and he turns around, and this man is just, 8 feet behind the car.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they, look at each other, and this thing opens its mouth and screams at this.
Sybilla, the audio is getting a little choppy. Uh,
Is it?
yeah. Let's see.
When I
I'm not sure if it'll be any better. Say hello.
Hello.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you. Sometimes that's a Skype issue. A lot of times. So if it
Okay.
continues to be choppy, we'll just hang up and dial you back. And if it still be choppy, then we'll just go to audio in general. All right. We have this question from Rose out of YouTube. Could What is Bigfoot? Is he an animal or a demonic entity?
Well, I don't think he's an animal, and I don't think he's a demonic entity either. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't entities that couldn't pose as Sasquatch. You know, that I guess that could happen, but I think they're just amazingly intelligent creatures.
Well, you mentioned UFOs. A lot of times people say that where there's UFOs, there seems to be Bigfoot. Now, I guess I don't know if the insinuation is that they're driving the UFOs.
I don't think so, but you know, the Tennessee Mutual UFO Network woman who is like the head of the Tennessee chapter, she came in and visited us at the museum and asked us if we'd be willing to work with her because she's got so many witnesses who are seeing Bigfoot and UFOs at the same time. So again, it would be total speculation on my part to say that I knew they were connected, and some people swear they are, and they may be. I just don't know.
Well, you know,
I don't have answers.
I just thought that some of those angrier looking Bigfoots might be upset because people are making cups out of them and saying this is what they really look like. Now, this particular Bigfoot is looking a little happy, and I think it's probably making them a little pissed off. They kind of marketed like that. But all right, so we have another question in. This says from Philip in North Carolina, and I bet there's Bigfoot running around there.
Yep.
Could the Bigfoot be an interdimensional creature?
I think maybe the possibility is there's more than one kind of Bigfoot. And, you know, there are many camps in the Bigfoot research world. Some people believe that they're only flesh and blood. Some people believe that maybe there's another kind that has abilities that other Bigfoots do not. I don't know. I mean, do all humans have the same abilities? You know, some more or less. There have been totally credible witnesses that have seen these things dematerialize. So, you know, who am I to say? Maybe some of them are. Maybe they can travel interdimensionally. I don't have the answer there either.
My wife and I were down in the Ozarks, and one of the people that lived there claims that they were sitting on a cliff, and they were looking down. And they were just on the cliff having lunch and looking down, and they said a Bigfoot come walking through the forest. So, you know, people's experience and what they see, you really can't discount. The only way you can really say they didn't happen is if you were there looking at the same thing. And that's really a lot of the way I look at a lot of people who are on this program. You know, unless you were there, there is some plausibility to the existence of Bigfoot. Now I'll tell my story that I know. I have a couple sons that were playing airsoft, and people that watched the show for a long time have probably heard this, but I want you to hear it because I thought it was intriguing. They were down by a creek, a couple miles from the house, and there was like 8 of them, 4 against 4. They were playing this airsoft game, just shooting back and forth. It was getting late. The sun was setting, and they saw some creature. And interestingly, I think I'm going to bring this up here for people to look at, and I'm going to get out of the picture. They said it. Now, this obviously the teeth there might make some laughs here, but my son said that they saw a white creature, and I'm thinking because everything I've always heard was that they're brown, black, monkey-like, hair covered, red, and they said it was white, and so they was moving behind trees and scared the crap out of all of them. So my 2 sons laid low. They got a cut log and heaved it across the creek where they saw this thing, tried to spook it out. It was behind a tree. And they threw this log, and then they went running up the hill. Everybody jumped in their vehicles and took off. Now, I didn't know they were down there doing this game. I didn't know anything about this. Next day, I walk out in the lot, and their truck, there was a log on the mirror. And I went in there and said, "Why are you guys driving around with a log stuck on your mirror in between the truck mirror? It's a big mirror, and it's stuck in there." And I
Yeah.
said, "We're not driving around with a log." And they came out and looked at it, and it was the exact log that they'd heaved at this creature.
Wow.
So, it was a pretty harrowing experience. Man, that was another Bigfoot story
Yeah.
that seemed to be pretty close to home on that issue. So, what do you think about this white one? I mean, you drew it. What was the story on that?
Um, we think that she was an old female. This was in northern Alabama. It's a place where the family had reoccurring visits of a male that was kind of aggressive, and then this female and uh, another female, and she was standing with twins, carrying twins on her hips. Um, this is an interesting story because the the young man who lived on this property had taken some hard-boiled eggs. I think it was around Easter, and he had discovered that there was a crevice that a bunch of trees had been, deadfall had fallen over, and then something had added vines and made this all like into a cave, like an enclosure. So he had gone into this area. He had put some hard-boiled eggs in there and left them as a gift, and then, backed out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few days later, went to check to see if the eggs had been taken. And as he started crawling into there, he realized that it was occupied, and he knew he had really messed up. This poor female was in there. He got to see her, and she was absolutely terrified by his presence. She kind of ran to the back, shaking violently. So he started backing out. Uh, Kind of long story short, she did get out of that area, and she did a vocalization, and it was rapidly answered by the mate. And so that young man knew he was in a really bad situation. So he just started walking back home, and within no time at all, the male was right behind him, like 20 yards behind him, popping his teeth, escorting him back to his home. He didn't think he was going to make it. He didn't think he was going to make it home, but he did.
I'm going to throw a question out to people in the live chat, both YouTube and on our homepage there. If anybody has seen a Bigfoot, or is anybody just put a yes in there, or have a relative that has seen a Bigfoot. All right, let's go to another question here. This is maybe tongue in cheek here. Doug White says, "Are Bigfoot and Chewbacca related?"
Well, it kind of makes you wonder if Chewbacca wasn't patterned after a Bigfoot, right?
Well,
Sure
they
could
always
be.
say that somehow that movies have a tendency to reveal truth in a subtle way.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a tendency to believe that. All right, in the live chat, just kind of glancing over there, we've got no's, but in uh, the YouTube chat, we've got a yes there. So again, the question I'm just throwing out there: has anybody seen one? Got a few notes, or know somebody that has seen one. All right, and let's go back to some more questions for you, Sybilla. Is there a time of day or season of the year when they are seen more often? This is from MRU2U2.
Um, Boy, they're just seen all times of the day. Now, some people will say at dawn, at dusk, um, 4:30 seems to be. I know that sounds really strange, but 4:30 seems to be a time period.
An AM
You know,
or AM?
no, in the afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, broad daylight afternoon. Um, Time, seasons is tough depending upon which regional area you live in. Like down in the south where I live
Mm-hmm.
or where I'm from,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're active all year round. Um, but maybe up north, like I was living on a site that is a research location for 5 years, and it got pretty quiet between, December to mid-March. There'd be very little activity. Now, they might have left the area, or maybe they were just hunkered down to stay, warm. But I think you're going to start seeing a lot more activity in March and April as it warms up.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. I'd like to see some activity. 'Cause I'm like they say police run, good police, not like say Broward County, Florida police running away from things. I mean, but I'm kind of like the police that run toward it. I mean, man, if there's some Bigfoot sightings around the area, man, I'm heading out there.
That's
Check
what we do. Yeah.
check this
Yeah.
thing out, man. Everybody's got a cell phone. Has anybody? Speaking of cell phones, is anybody got video that you know of?
They have. Yeah. In fact, we have some of that in the museum. And we have people that walk into the museum with cell phone pictures. There was a policeman from Florida that was visiting Georgia. He was
Mm-hmm.
with his family, had a sighting on the way, to the cabin that they were going to stay at. He was with his son. It was about 200 yards. He used his cell phone and, he brought it into us. But, it's not a picture that's going to convince anybody else
Mm-hmm.
that it's a Bigfoot, but he knew what he saw. He's a trained observer.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot more people. Well, the problem is with cell phones, yes, a lot more people have them, but a cell phone's not meant for a distance of 100 yards or more. Everything gets real blurry and grainy, and that's one of the things why, how come nobody can get a great picture of these things?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
and there are people out there that probably do have great pictures, but they're not really sharing it with the rest of us.
mm-hmm.
When you look at, you know, if you ever watch some of the shows where they're sharing the photographers and videographers are sharing what it takes to get amazing wildlife
Mm-hmm.
footage.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's photographing the snow leopard, it may take them 6 months to get a 30-second video, and
Right.
they have the best equipment too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's exactly how they did it on the series. I think by BBC Planet Earth.
exactly,
I think one of them I saw was the mother bear coming out of the side of a mountain, snow-covered mountain, and whenever it was, but I think he was there for months just to
exactly.
find out where they went in and just stayed there till they come out. So I mean, it does take
Yeah.
extraordinary fortitude in that area.
Well, and tremendous commitment. And in most of the people who are Bigfoot researchers, we have full-time jobs and families, and we can't just devote 6 months to go sitting on a hill in a blind trying to get these pictures. I mean, if someone would pay us, we would.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Somebody in the live chat off the website there asked what kind of sounds do they make. And speaking of that, Sybilla, I have a couple recordings, and I want to know what you think about it. Do you give me your opinion if you consider these real? And here it is. Here's the first one. What'd you think about that?
I've heard some purported Bigfoot sounds that sound sort of like that. If someone were to send that recording to me, I would send it to our resident audiologist and ask him to put it on the spectrograph and look at the frequency of it. I mean, it could also be a coyote. They make some really crazy, strange sounds.
All right, so you just don't instantly say if somebody sends you a Bigfoot audio scream, you don't instantly say, "Well, that's one too," right?
Right? No, no,
There
no,
is a
no.
there is a danger too of a hoaxer trying to trick you too, and so I admire your questioning on that. I mean, it has to be a little bit of scientific. All right, let's go to a second one. This is another purported Bigfoot howl or scream.
Okay.
What does that sound
Yeah,
like
I
to
have
you?
definitely heard that one before. Yeah, that was definitely um, everyone pretty much agrees that's a Sasquatch. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I was at a graveyard where I shouldn't have been about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I heard a growl. Now, this is Indiana. We don't have bears here. I imagine they
Right.
do in Georgia.
Mhm.
In fact,
Yes, we
we
do.
have something called a bear report. So there's a bear right there. But I mean, it growled, man. It went roar like that. I'm thinking, okay, that's not a possum. That's not a deer. I didn't think it was a rabbit. Um, it
No, I
certainly
don't
wasn't a
think
hoot
so.
owl. Being a cowboy, I know about that. What do you think would be out in the forest making growling sounds like a bear?
Well, I mean, it could be a Sasquatch. They do growl at people. They huff. They, kind of grunt. They make a lot of interesting sounds, and they also can mimic human beings really well. Yeah.
All right. Question then from the YouTube chat, Azure. Um, is the Bigfoot timeline pre-flood or a post-flood creature? Now I'm assuming that I guess they're assuming that you would know what that sort of timeline is, but
Right. Pre-flood. I mean,
there's a lot of talk on the internet about the first of all the agreement that there was some sort of cataclysmic worldwide flood,
right,
but
right,
pre-flood there was civilizations
right.
much more advanced, and I guess that's where they're coming from there.
Uh, I I think they could be both. I think these beings are probably ancient, like way ancient. So,
In my background, I have I call it the blue foot there, but you got a Bigfoot in a swamp looking thing. What's going on there?
yes, that's in the Cuyahoga National Forest, and it was coming out of a swamp. There was three young men. They had been walking the railroad tracks. They had headed they'd headed down the railroad tracks. It was like 11 o'clock at night. They'd headed down the railroad tracks. Um, they got to this clearing and they heard a really high vocalization that's, kind of stopped them and they listened and it's like, what was that? And then they decided to keep walking, probably went another quarter mile and turned around, started coming back towards the direction of where they'd started. They got back to this opening and all of a sudden, in fact, the witness said to me, he said, Sybilla, have you ever heard, have you ever been in a parade and the fire truck does the siren or, the ambulance or something? I said, yeah. He says, and it's so loud that it rattles your eardrums. It's like piercing. And I said, yeah. He says, that's what this thing did. It was so loud. We stopped and we were all looking into the swamp trying to find the source of this horrific sound, this scream. And then all of a sudden, this thing started bursting out of the water. It must have been up to the water, like up to his shoulders, because all they saw was what they thought was a stump. And it starts rushing out the water out of them. And it was like a wake in front of it. It was coming so fast and it was screaming. And he said they kind of broke as a unit, like all at once, just now, and then started running for their lives, basically. This thing, the man who filed the report uh, was in the military, and after this signing, he actually left the military. It destroyed his confidence in his ability to not do the flight
Mhm.
response in a stressful situation. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it was a very emotional time. He lost his best friend actually after this incident because they were together when this happened, and
Uh,
they
it-
never reconnected.
well, it certainly is a scary looking creature. It seems to be or have less hair than most people claim that. We saw a white one, and we've seen this one here was sort of apish looking. Uh, and there's others that we're going to be showing in the second hour. But are these all different species?
I do think there's some websites that say that there's like 7 or 8 species of this thing. I don't really know how accurate that is, but I do believe that there's some that are far more human looking, and then there's some that are far more apish.
And speaking of that, I saw a question pop up. Do they have the ability to ape humans? I mean, could they call out and as a friend you may know and trick you to come in the forest and kill and eat you? Or man, can they they make bird sounds? I mean, do they have that capability?
Yes, they can mimic basically anything. I mean, they can mimic humans' voices. If they hear, mom calling a children and, a child calling back to mom, they learn those voices and can mimic them very well. They can mimic birds and
Mhm.
I mean, basically anything. I've heard them mimic a siren, like
Really?
the EMS siren. Yeah.
Well, then how do you?
And like owl sounds,
Mhm.
all sorts of, they
Hmm.
can mimic a coyote, except they sound like a 500-pound coyote
500-pound coyote. Okay.
or 500-pound owl. I mean, it's not right.
A 500-pound owl. Okay, just when I thought we were going good. All right.
No, then you'll hear
They're out there. No,
something, trying to mimic an owl, but you can tell by the. There you go. I was hoping to get at least a couple of those.
well, I have to. I could have. I've already should have used a lot more than I have. All right. And then here, this kind of follow up question to that. It says, do they come in different colors, brown and black? And I guess we've already kind of answered that. I mean, now they're
Yeah.
500-pound owls sitting on a tree, so I don't know where we're going with this. But
Yes, they're seen. Excuse me. White ones, gray ones, coyote color, even blonde, red, black, dark brown. Usually, if the sun is shining, there'll be a red tint to the hair. Different lengths of hair too. Some look very groomed. Some look very matted with muddy and dreadlocks and kind of like humans, all sorts of weird configurations.
well, that's a question too. Just popped up too in the YouTube channel. So, if they can mimic human language, do they understand what we're saying?
Most people would say yes. Most people who have, there's people who have had, quote, relationships, and I don't want to go anywhere wrong with that, but I mean, there are
I
people
do.
who have had them on their property for years and years and years, have been, gifted by them, say that they do understand language and they have a language. And language has been recorded. Ron Moorhead made some amazing recordings in the mid-70s, and they have been analyzed.
Well, I'm wondering if we. Okay, this is what's in the background here for people. That is something that you can get at your store, and
That's right.
I don't think I can't really see if I can get out of here. People say it basically says Sasquatchers do it deep in the woods, and I guess that'd be one we want to leave alone right there. So let's get me back in here because we're getting toward the top of the hour. All right, hey, here's what we're going to do. Your audio chopped up just a little bit, but this is going to work out.
Okay.
I'm going to hang up, and then if you will log on to the Edges website, click on our halftime show. It lasts about 5 minutes. I have a video that's exclusive video of me interacting with a Bigfoot. I was out in the forest, and fortunately, we caught it on tape. So
it's going to be interesting.
So before we do that, anything you'd like to say about your website or anything? Now's your chance. Go ahead. Tell them what it is and what's on there.
My website has multiple galleries, Bigfoot sketches. I'm also a fine artist. I also have a store, so people can order hand-painted lampshades. Well, when they go to the store, they can see all the things that are there. I also have a blog where I share the witness sketches and some of the witness stories. And then I usually have, like on the homepage, conferences that I'm going to be speaking at and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sybilla Irwin, I'm going to hang up here. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, and I'll ring you back, okay?
Yes, sir.
So now you know where the Edges website is?
I do.
Okay. All right. So it should be in the main player, and then log off of that. I mean, don't be watching it because at about 9:06, I'll call you back. So if it's playing, it'll have an echo. So you want to make sure you log off that, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. All right, everybody, there it is, and I'll get out of here. So obviously, if you are a Sasquatcher, you are doing it deep in the woods. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this log against that tree. That's how you call a Bigfoot out in the forest, and then you listen to see if they respond. So let's go try it. there he is!
Go.
Susan, let's get the hell out of here. Let's get to the ATV and get out of this forest. Let's go. It's those lesbian Sasquatches. Nerve-wracking sons of bitches.
Reasonable people finally just have to come out of their shells and say, look, there's other stuff going on.
Naturally, the public is going to start asking questions. Why have we been taught these things so wrongly in all the schools?
We are going to be talking about Class 1 data. Class 1 data is physical evidence that people can look at for themselves. They can touch it. It's in a museum.
Just got to get the facts to the people. You know, who knows when and if the government's ever going to come forward.
Let's get back to discovering the truth together
On the Edge.
And welcome back to the Edge television broadcast. My name is Daniel Odd. Now, that video there, I was running for my life. Me and Susan was running. This creature was out there, and it was a very harrowing experience. And by the way, that is, in fact, how you call out a Bigfoot there. So if you're out in the forest and you feel like you're being chased or there's one out there, that's how you try to communicate. If you knock on wood, they typically will knock back to signify they understand you and they're looking for you. Now let's go back to our Skype line and ring back up Sybilla Irwin of Bigfoot Field Research Organization. And here we go. Let me get this on screen and call her back. Sybilla, can you see me now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, there I was, man, running through the forest. It was out there. Did you see it?
I did see it, but I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you know it was a lesbian?
Well, I'll tell you what. That's a good question right there. Years
was
ago.
it the haircut? Was it the clothes?
No. Well, what that was. Okay. Now it was an assumption. Okay, you kind of got me on that. But hey. Nothing's really regular on this program. This is not like a regular Bigfoot, right? I mean, okay. Or you got me. You shouldn't ask that question. But anyway, all right. Well, welcome back to the second hour of the Edge television broadcast, Sybilla. We are talking about Bigfoot experiences. People have said that they've seen a Bigfoot, and they have They claim that many times there's an odd smell. Is that because they don't wash, or what's going on there?
They don't always smell. Now, I have on occasion smelled kind of a musky, skunkish urine-ish, sewage, kind of smell. But that doesn't happen with every encounter. Sometimes there's no smell whatsoever.
All right. So, but as we left the first hour there, we were talking about that they can mimic noises and various things. So, is there any way we can tell? I've heard a hoot owl a couple times this week. I mean, is
Right.
Bigfoot activity?
Well, uh, um, it's possible, but usually they have a different tonality, so that you know that you're hearing something that's not right. Like there's something off about it. Like when I said like a 500-pound owl, it's because there's a bass tone to it that shouldn't be there. There's something totally off. Like the siren that I heard where this thing was mimicking the ambulance. It was obvious it wasn't the ambulance, but it was a really bad impression of someone doing an ambulance. Yeah.
Right. Now, I said we had a couple others here. I'm going to get out of the screen on this one here. This here is some kind of, I'm actually out, so I don't know if you see the whole thing, but I'm actually out of the picture. It appears to be some sort of wolf-like dog-looking Sasquatch. What is this thing?
Yeah, that's a dog man. That was seen by a woman over in Europe. Yeah. Terrifying encounter. She was just a child, and it was outside her window. Yeah.
Do you think these things have layers? Where they like dig in the ground, or are they going interdimensional? What's the most the highest possibility of why we've not been able to catch one?
I don't know anybody's out there trying to catch one of these things. These things are terrifying. I mean, when you work with these witnesses, it kind of makes some of the Bigfoot encounters seem like kindergarten. I mean, these things seem intent on doing you physical harm. Like if they could get to you, they would definitely eat you.
Well, wait a minute, wait. So they're carnivorous?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, look at those canines. I mean, those are. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess now, what do you think if somebody would take a shot at them?
I think people have. I think these things aren't phased much by regular weaponry. Let's try to say that fast. Regular weaponry.
Okay. All right. A question from Philip in Georgia. How many Bigfoots do you think are out there?
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands.
So, and this is a question that a lot of people use, I say, to dismiss the idea of a Bigfoot Sasquatch, and that is there enough structure in the forest to support such a large animal?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know exactly what the bear population is in northern Georgia, but my goodness, I've seen more dead bear on the side of the road here than I have deer. So I mean, and the bear is a large carnivorous animal, so there's plenty of food around here for, and the omnivores here. So yeah, I think these things, we can't assume that their metabolism is exactly like ours either. And we don't know.
Jade, our moderator, asked this question here. What about expeditions? How do you decide where to go and what to do?
That's usually driven by the activity in the area where you're leading in an expedition. So you're paying very close into the history of the area that you're going to take people in, and what time of year that activity, because activity is not always happening year round. So if you want to take your group into an active area, you look at the history of the area and the most recent sightings of the area, and you go from there.
How many
the kind of things we do on expeditions? Usually it's kind of teaching and educational. So that we teach, basic tracking classes and what to look for out there.
How many expeditions have you been on?
Gosh, I would say over 100.
Wow.
Private and public. Yeah.
Are they in other states? Do you travel outside the state?
Oh yeah. I've gone in expeditions as far as Montana and Utah and Colorado, lots of times, lots of Colorado expeditions.
In the Colorado ones, I always picture that as kind of rocky mountain looking areas. Are there, do they appear in those situations, or is it always a forest?
Um, they're all over Colorado, like especially southern Colorado, north of Denver, like in the Flat Tops Mountains up there. That's like one of the craziest expeditions I've ever been on, was in northern Colorado. There was so much activity, I never went to sleep one night. I mean, I just sat up the entire night because these things are running around our camp like all night long. There were some people who were sleeping in cars because they didn't want to tent camp. Yeah, actually it kept me awake all night.
Wow.
When you're a single person sleeping in a little 2-person tent, and you have these things come running through base camp, literally, and you can hear them, you can feel them, their weight hitting the ground. They kept us awake basically all night long. Things would start to quiet down, and you'd start to be able to drift off to sleep, hear them come again. I mean, I never slept. It was a crazy expedition.
There's one Bigfoot series I was watching. They went to Canada, and they were at this remote base camp sort of, house or cabin, whatever, and they had rocks thrown at their roof.
Right.
So I mean, that's interesting on that, because back to some of the graveyard expeditions I've been on, rocks were thrown at my party out there, which was interesting. I mean, when you have rocks thrown at you, you think, okay, there's
not a bear.
There's two things. Well, probably not a bear.
Not a bear.
Because they weren't that accurate. I figure a bear would be more accurate and hit somebody in the head. Man, rocks come flying out of nowhere. Or there's somebody that's out there who just happened to be there in the middle of the night at a certain time. I mean, I don't know, but I definitely can tell you that the things were thrown, and sticks were thrown before as well. Would you say that's a Bigfoot activity, say warning, stay away?
Yeah, they'll definitely let you know if they want you to leave an area. Yeah, I mean, and that's the kind of activity that they'll do. They'll start throwing stuff at you and screaming at you or growling at you. And if you don't leave, then it usually gets more aggressive.
So the basic organization itself, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, is that somebody that people just like join? They go to a website, they join, and can they get on these?
No, sir.
How's
they
that
have to
work?
be invited. You have to be invited.
Ooh, personal invitation, eh?
Yes, sir. At least you need to go on some expeditions so that the organizers and investigators in that state can get to know you and see how you interact with people and how you are out in the woods, and need to see that you can keep your head in certain situations and deal with difficult people sometimes in difficult situations.
Now,
so they have to get to know you, and because you're a member of the team, so they have to get a sense of who you are and how professionally you're going to represent the BFRO and interact with, witnesses that come forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how relevant this is, but on a particular ghost hunt, somebody was there with the group that was just laughing and cutting up and mocking the situation, and there was no activity that night. And I was thinking, and then go to another time when they weren't there, and then there was. So is it that there takes a certain amount of I don't know, believability, maybe a word, a person needs to sort of go, at least not be a rampant skeptic, but maybe open, or somebody who actually believes? Does that make a difference on what shows up?
No, I don't think it makes a difference in terms of what happens on that expedition. You're going to, you may have 25 or 30 people on an expedition, and you got people who are total believers and are knowers, people who've actually experienced seeing a Sasquatch, to someone who is a total non-believer, and everything in between. And no, it's not going to affect the activity, I don't think. Yeah.
And another Bigfoot story, I know a guy that worked in Indiana Southern Railroad in the southern part of the state, where the only hills there are in Indiana. and they were at the Crane Naval Base, which is in the southern part of Indiana. They were on a train. They worked for the train company, and they were delivering things to Crane Naval Base in the middle of the night, but it was too heavy, and they had to stop the train, cut it in half, and have the locomotive and half the train go up to Crane, and then come back around and get where the caboose was, and never have a train. But he said while he was there at the caboose in the middle of the night, a Sasquatch, a red-haired 8-foot looking Sasquatch, come walking along the White River down there. And he said he jumped in the caboose, and he couldn't tell that story till he retired because he would have been fired. So there's a third Bigfoot sort of encounter or knowledge that I'm aware, that I've been personally aware of. I haven't seen one myself, but the credible stories that around. I mean, like I say, besides that bear screaming, now I'm just wondering if that was a bear or a Bigfoot. Maybe the Bigfoot mocking a bear, but there's no bears in Indiana, so something was out there, and I'm pretty familiar with most of the animals out there. All right, let's get back to another question then. It says, do all continents report sightings, including Antarctica?
I haven't heard of anything in Antarctica. I think most continents have some form of hairy bipedal creature of varying sizes. Yeah, I mean Hawaii. No, I don't think they've been seen in Hawaii.
If they are an interdimensional creature, what would be your best guess as to why they're here?
I have no idea if they're an interdimensional creature, why they would be here.
Well, and if they're not an interdimensional creature, say that they're living in the forest, is it just because they escaped the evolutionary process, or they're one of the survivors? Because if you look at the variety of organisms on the earth, each one seems to have a speciality. The octopus can mask itself. It's like it can become like the rocks it's sitting on, and it can escape through various things. I mean, so many species have this certain ability, and so we can't really say that there is not a species out there that has, say, an escapism, being elusive, being able to blend into where you can't find them. I mean, there certainly could be another species, and by nature, their ability to hide themselves could be part of the evolutionary process. Could it not?
Right, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
When was the last report, and what was the last report about that you got concerning the Bigfoot?
You mean like witness sketch that I'm working on?
Yeah, right. The last one where you drew. When was that, and what's the story on it?
I'm working with a witness that was 14 when he kind of met an orphan Bigfoot that was also a young one whose family had been killed, and I'm working with that witness. He would be a great witness. For a movie or a book, he had a 5-year relationship. These two kind of grew up together. Yeah.
Okay, here it comes.
Did she just say that?
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yeah, it's an amazing story.
They grew up together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. MR2U2 says, what do you think they eat?
Everything.
Including humans?
I think that's probably happened too. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you did just say that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think they're omnivores. I think they're also opportunistic. So if they're around ranches and farms, they will cart off chickens and calves and cat food, horse feed, dog food.
All right.
They're going to dumpster dive. Yeah.
All right, you can see behind me there, and again, you're in the picture too as well, and I'll get out for the folks. But it looks like a white wolf that's standing. What is going on here?
This was an amazing sighting by a man who was has very deeply touched by his encounter. He was driving a very lonely road in western Oklahoma. He's had a 40-foot trailer on the back. He's one of those people that works in the oil field industry. And as he was coming late at night down this road, in the curve up ahead, he's got bright, LEDs on his truck. He sees this thing standing off to the side of the road on the left, and his lights, illuminate it. And he takes his foot off the gas because he doesn't know what this thing is and what it's going to do. Is it going to run across the road? He's going, he doesn't want to hit it, so he starts slowing down, and he gets closer and closer, and this thing is just standing off the pavement just a little bit, and the road's just slightly higher than where this thing is standing. And as he goes by this thing, it looks him right in the eyes. I mean, it just follows him as he goes by. He said it just looks into his soul. That was a terrifying encounter. He still, to this day, is asking, why me? Why did I see this thing? He was terrified that it was going to jump on the back of his, trailer. So he turned on the bright LEDs and, got out there. And then he he was having nightmares and contacted, I think he got on Facebook and was asking for a witness sketch artist, and that's how he found me.
It seems, Sybilla, that there are more accidental
Yes.
sightings rather than people going out and trying to look for one, because most of the people aren't looking for them, and then they see them and they don't know what to do with the information. I'm sure they question what they saw. Hopefully they had a witness and they can say, we're both not crazy. But so is it more likely that you'll see one if you're not looking?
Yes. I do think so.
I wonder what
and that seems to be most of the sightings. There's just people out there doing their lives. They're not asking for these, they're not asking for these things to happen. And I think that's why I feel so compelled to help witnesses. When I first started reading reports, and then interviewing people, they're so grateful just to have someone to talk to that actually believes them and treats them with kindness. I mean, so many people have been, they suffer from symptoms of PSD from seeing something like this. I mean, like this guy behind you, he's not supposed to exist. What is that? And that has, he's part Native American, and he took it to some Native Americans, and they said, well, those are Cherokee shoulders, and they call this a skinwalker.
Well, imagine that people
terribly affected by this sight.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that people would be happy to talk to somebody that wouldn't ridicule them right off. I mean, there's just really too many stories. I think people need to just be a little patient when they hear a story, because obviously, like you say, people are traumatized by some of these sightings that they see. I mean, anybody would. It says Doug White wants to know, has there been any Bigfoot sightings in Virginia? But do you have a big map yourself where you put little pins either where you've had your expeditions or where there are Bigfoot sightings?
It's interesting you said that, because that's been a subject that myself and another person were just talking about. We really need to create a map that that people can buy that show all the sightings. The problem with that is, though, it needs to be constantly updated. So like every year you'd need to be doing a new one, because reports are constantly coming in. And it makes me wonder if there are just more sightings, or people are just feeling more comfortable to come forward and talk about their sightings. I don't know if there's just an uptick of sightings, or if people are now, they have a place to report. They know about the BFRO. They know that there's radio shows that they can go on and talk about it. They're just feeling more comfortable. I'm not sure. Maybe these things have just always been cited for hundreds of years, and the local people just didn't talk about it. Most people are very close-lipped still in a lot of communities, like in southern Georgia. They just don't talk about their sightings.
There are actually early American newspaper articles where Bigfoot sightings, or as we described, I don't think they called them Bigfoot back then, but in early America, they were documented, and and
hairy
certainly
man, the hairy man,
there's a
or
lot
wild
of,
man.
and they're pretty much a Bigfoot type of creature in most Indian lores as well.
Absolutely, and they all have different names for them as well. All different regions. So this is nothing new. Really, they're not new at all. They've been here for a long time.
By the way, in the first hour, when we played those Bigfoot screams, somebody wrote that they got confused. They thought Hillary Clinton had called in, but that's I don't believe it was Hillary. So going on. Wow, got a bunch more questions. Let me get to the fast blast, because I've got a ton of questions coming in for Sybilla. Hang on for a second.
Okay.
We're going to get this. Let me get this on screen. Boom, here it is here. All right. Latest one here. Yeah, okay. Have you ever used a drone and used infrared technology?
I have used infrared technology, yes. And we've used drones, um, but not together. I mean, I haven't used them together.
Mhm.
When I was living on that research area, I had a FLIR camera that I put out pretty much every night. Well, there was a FLIR camera running for about 6 months, and I still have about 6 months worth of data to review.
Yeah. What about a
So,
trail cam?
I wouldn't waste money on trail cams
And why
unless
not?
you want them, unless you have them on your property and you want them to go away, then you put up trail cams.
All right. Because that scares them off. What?
Yep, yep, sure does.
Hmm.
Now, don't ask me how they know what they are, but if you put them up, it's a deterrent. They'll
Okay.
stop coming around.
Probably got the smell of humans on there. Question come in says,
Or they hear them or smell them. Yeah.
really? Okay. All right. On an expedition, how do you decide where to go? What equipment do you use, and how long do they last?
The expeditions start on Thursday morning and they end on Sunday. We decide where we're going to take people according to the activity of the area and also the logistics, like how many people are coming, finding an area that can, take that many people that you can camp comfortably. If we can get permits, sometimes, you can't get permits in the areas you want to take people to and things. It's
Okay.
can be a logistical nightmare.
All righty. And then back to the other chat. It says, do long haul truckers tend to report a lot of sightings?
There are a lot of truckers, yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of reports from them. I mean, obviously they cover
Yes.
a lot of miles.
Right.
I wonder if
right.
they're sort of like airline pilots and UFOs. They don't really report them like right off.
Right. Or if they want to keep flying, they don't report them. Yeah.
Now I'm wondering, because Uber has driverless trucks, I wonder if they would say attack that because there's no human in there. They may feel like they could hitch a ride there. Did you ever see Big Trouble in Little China? The
Yes.
movie with. Well, he said a man had to be some kind of fool to believe we're all alone in this universe.
Exactly.
And then
You would.
Yeah, and then in the end of the movie, there's a Sasquatch hanging on the back of his truck, and he's driving down the road. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, has anybody ever said that their vehicle's been attacked by a Bigfoot?
They have, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a deer have been stolen right out of the back of men's trucks. Yeah.
Because
there've been some damage to vehicles.
okay.
Yep.
Philip in North Carolina again. He says, "Hey, do you guys have expeditions in North Carolina? Where can I go?" But I think you just said you just can't say I want to go to. You got, and I'm glad it does make sense that you have some sort of test there. Some vetting there along the way. You certainly, it would be necessary, probably even for safety purposes. But
Well, yes, and even the expeditions are vetted. I mean, say you want to go on an expedition, and someone in North Carolina could very easily go on a northern Georgia expedition. It's not that far away, not that far a drive. And there is going to be an expedition that starts May 31st and ends June 3rd. If they go to the BFRO website, they click on the main page. There's a map. They click on that map. It opens another page, and then they can scroll down. That page is going to have all the expeditions in the United States, and then they can
wow.
find the state that they want to go to. And what happens is they send an email saying that they have read it, kind of the rules and regulations, and they know about the fee that they're going to have to pay. And then they contact the investigator, person holding the expedition, and then they have to go through kind of an interview, and then that organizer decides whether they want that person on their expedition or not.
Okay. Kimberly Miller out of YouTube. What data do you most wish to compile regarding these beings, and for what purpose?
What data?
Yeah.
My purpose is the faces. I want to document what people are seeing. So that's my main focus, is what are people seeing? basically what the behaviors are that they witnessed.
Mhm.
So that's my best. That's what I'm up to is since I'm an artist.
When you're out in the forest, they say if there's bears in the area, you're not supposed to have your food open and such like that. If you did, would that attract a Bigfoot as well? Human food, or the smell
Absolutely.
of hot dogs being
Yeah.
cooking, or s'more? What if you made s'mores? I mean, would you get a
Absolutely. I
different
mean,
type
and that's
of?
one of the techniques we use is, cooking up a lot of bacon and hamburgers and hot dogs and putting that out in the air. But, if you're next to a bear preserve, yeah, you need to be very careful at night and put all that stuff up.
But besides the bear, you could inadvertently attract a Bigfoot.
You could.
Now,
Yeah.
are most interactions with Bigfoot, are they usually on the scary end?
No, most are totally benign. I'd say the majority are benign, where they're, the Bigfoot's just trying to get away and wants nothing to do with the human. But then every once in a while, there's, reports where they're very curious about you and what you're doing there. Like maybe they're doing some recon to see what you're doing there, whether you're fishing or camping. Sometimes on expeditions, they seem to come into our camp after everybody's going to sleep to see what we're doing. They'll open up the ice chest and look and see what you're doing, what you're taking. Because you're shopping in where they hunt. So they're going to check you out.
Raul asked the question: do you guys ever carry firearms with you?
When I do expeditions in the Sam Houston National Forest, there's a huge population of feral hogs, like the really dangerous kind. So the people that carry weapons when we're out in the field are either formed military or they have like concealed carry. And like say I may have 4 teams out in the wood at night, and then so at least one investigator on per team will be carrying a weapon. I just don't want weapons in tents with people. So there's people who are designated to be protectors of their group.
Well, this is America. I mean, there's a lot of other things besides Bigfoot we need to be afraid of out in the forest. I mean,
Right.
a lot of
Mountain
freaks.
lions,
I mean,
bear.
there is that one guy that's documenting. We're trying to get him on the show. I forgot his name, but he's people disappearing in the national forest. You probably
David Paulides.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, you guys could go on an expedition and never come back. Is that a concern?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all sorts of things can happen on an expedition. I mean, someone can fall down and, break their leg and hold you responsible. So yeah, it's a tremendous liability.
Have you heard of J.C. Johnson?
I have.
And obviously he passed away, I believe.
Yes. Unfortunately had never gotten to meet him, but I hear his work was wonderful.
Is there any conspiracy about that? That it's just a normal death of a Bigfoot hunter? Or do you think he was onto something and somebody tried to stop him?
That I do not know. I don't have any information about that.
What about Kwani Lapiercetus?
Lapsaritis?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar with his work.
Okay, yeah, he's been on the show too as well. So there are a number of researchers out there. If all of you pulled your resources together, would there be enough to prove to a court that Bigfoot exists? Enough evidence?
I think there's probably enough now to prove that they exist, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think. The government doesn't have the resources to manage a population of these things. Period.
Isn't there? I don't know. I think maybe in Canada, but somebody filed a lawsuit for protection for the Bigfoot.
Yeah. Todd Standing. Yeah.
All
I think
right.
it was declined.
And speaking of the government, it says, does the government know of their existence and do they try to squash the information about them?
This is just my personal opinion. I believe that the government knows all about these things and has had bodies. And do I think they squash information? Absolutely, 100% I do.
Have you or any of fellow researchers ever tried to trap a Bigfoot?
the people I know are too intelligent to try to do something that profoundly stupid.
That does seem to be on the order of game playing with them. But I don't
That would
even
be
know.
that would be the stupidest thing. When you
Okay.
look,
Well, man,
you
I
know,
don't know.
a chimpanzee is 7 to 10 times stronger than a human. So
Mhm.
can you imagine the strength? I mean, if you've ever seen what they can do to a tree, I mean,
Mhm.
really,
Mhm.
they can take a 11-inch circumference tree and break it, wrap it around itself 8 times. I've seen,
Mhm.
pictures of that. The strength it would take to do what they do is amazing.
So do you guys do that tree log against the tree call?
Like the wood knocking,
Yeah.
uh, sometimes. I
Mhm.
mean, if we're on expeditions and the participants want us to do that, yeah, we'll do that.
Mhm.
Have I heard them out in the woods? Uh, Absolutely. The research area I used to work on, there were plenty of times when I would walk out the back door and there'd be a single wood knock,
Mhm.
just like a kind of she's outside guys, kind of communication.
Mhm.
So they obviously use that to communicate information to each other.
Um, by now, shouldn't somebody have definitive proof that they exist beyond just a footprint?
Yeah, there's definitive proof. There is.
Mhm.
There have been 3 genome studies done.
Where you're at? Is that a store, a museum? What is that?
It's a museum.
Okay. So what type of things are in there?
Um, it's 4,500 square feet of exhibits. So everything from footprint cast, video, like some of the really good video that's out there.
Hmm.
There's uh, all sorts of stories and videos. Like there's probably 20 different TVs that are running different stories of things
Wow.
that have, people have experienced. There's audio.
Mhm.
You'll hear Ron Moorhead's work from the Sierras of Sasquatch speaking a language. There's recordings of howls, uh, all sorts of artifacts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Do you think that Bigfoot are relatives of gorillas or apes or monkeys? Or are they in the category of all their own?
I think they're in a category closer to us.
Hmm. If you go run into a cow pasture, you're going to step in a cow pod. Is it possible that there are Bigfoot pods out there in the forest?
You mean cow patties?
But yeah, patties.
Bigfoot patties?
Yeah, Bigfoot patties,
Yes.
and I'm not sure what
Yes,
that'll look like.
there's scat has been found. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
big scat. Big scat.
okay. Um, okay, is that what you call it? All right.
Actually, they mark with urine too. I mean, there have been
Okay.
people's tents that have gotten marked.
Hmm.
Not a good thing.
Well, hopefully they're not out there eating beans. That could be a mess too. Um, okay, it says this is the same question which was asked earlier. How many do you think there are worldwide? And you said there are a lot.
Yeah,
So
I think there's a lot more than people think there are.
okay, the next question came in. Do the Bigfoot ever try to kill bears? Do they ever get in a
Actually,
battle
we have a video in the museum of a grizzly bear that was killed. Yeah,
by a
that they
Bigfoot?
believe was killed by a Bigfoot. Yeah,
Okay, now you know I'm going to put that up there, right?
go ahead.
So, okay, man. I mean, I can imagine, man, there's all kinds of stuff going on in the forest that that you wouldn't
Territorial?
expect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
territorial, right? If they're having to fight over resources, I can imagine that.
All right, and then have you known anybody who has been captured by one and then released?
Um, well, there was the Albert Ostman story. He was captured and carried for miles, and he was kept, for days by a family. He escaped. The male was extremely interested in his snuff, and so he kind of gave the snuff to him. The Bigfoot put the whole thing of snuff in its mouth, and of course, its mouth was on fire, so it ran, and he used that opportunity to escape.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a documented story.
Is there any documentation that people have been killed by the Bigfoot?
Yes.
So they're
Even
very
Teddy
obviously.
Roosevelt wrote about a trapper that got his neck broken.
So they have been known to kill people.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, that's also in the history books. Yeah.
All right. So as you gather the data, do you feel like there will be a time like in the UFO community of disclosure, where it's finally going to be answered in the scientific world that they exist, or do you think it's always going to kind of be off to the side? You know, the data keeps accumulating, but never really gets to a point of disclosure.
There, 5 years ago, I would have said that we were about to, hit disclosure, but I don't know. I kind of gotten to the point where I really don't care. I think the UFO thing is going to happen first. I do. I think people are more prepared for that.
How many people have reached out to you to describe their experiences, you think?
Gosh,
A lot?
a lot. Yeah. And I wished I could do it full time. That's my goal, is to work with witnesses full time. Just because there's enough of them out there that I could spend the rest of my life drawing the faces up, and that's my ultimate goal.
Is there any part of the country that has more Bigfoot than others?
Well, there's more sighting. I think Washington might be first. Washington, Oregon, up in there. Florida's really high on the list. Ohio is really high on the list.
When I think of Florida, I think one big giant mosquito-infested swamp. Is there habitat down there for Bigfoot?
There sure is. There's a lot of sightings down in Florida. The owners of this museum had sightings in Florida. Yeah, Alva, Florida. Yeah.
Do you think it's just the same people that see them all the time? If a person sees one, they have a tendency to see another one, or you think it's just random?
There are some people that happens to, but they're usually people who are out in the right environment. Like I'm working with a man in Washington State who has had multiple sightings, but he's a person who's a hunter. He's a fly fisherman. He's out there by himself, repeatedly and for most of his life. So those people are going to have more sightings, obviously, than someone who never goes out, to where these things are. But, there are people who've been researching these things for 50 years and they've never had a sighting. So it's really strange.
Question, could the Mothman have been a Bigfoot?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I don't think the Mothman was from here. I think the Mothman was an alien sort of creature.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Definitely, that's another type of many types of creatures out there. Question came in again. Is it possible that aliens have brought the Bigfoot here on this planet to do certain labor for them?
A lot of people think that's possible. That's a possibility. I mean, with their strength and their ability to move Earth like they could.
Do you think that Bigfoot are generally more intelligent than humans?
Yes.
Okay, well, I admit that there's a lot of stupid humans in there, so I can definitely understand what you're saying there.
Well, I mean, some of the ways some of the places that we have hidden cameras would astound you. I mean, really would just astound you. And flower pots and dog houses and hollowed out logs, and these things bust, our camera traps every time. I mean, what has the ability to do that? I mean, I walk through trail cameras all the time.
Do you think
see them.
Do you think they have supernatural powers?
It almost seems that way at times, but their abilities are just, their senses are probably so far more heightened than ours are. Because I mean, look at what we endure every day as human beings. The noise, the distractions.
Well,
these things can be. Maybe they're pure. Their
well,
ears,
I
their
do
eyes.
understand what you're saying. I mean, sometimes I think I would be happier being out in the forest with a Bigfoot rather than being in the city with a bunch of creeps.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you were in the forest for a month, your whole biorhythm and everything would change, and your senses would become more acute.
I definitely can understand that. And speaking of the city, a couple questions came in along those lines. What is the closest encounter in a city? Do they do they encroach on human civilization? Are they encroaching on us as we push them back? Or they come?
They do.
Do you have any?
They are seen. They are seen in urban areas. Yeah. If there's a food source, if there's a restaurant that's has a huge dumpster and dumping a lot of food, yeah, absolutely, they'll be seen there. Yeah.
Philip wants to know: do they have men's and women's body parts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And yes, they have been seen.
Okay. So, what is a typical Bigfoot family? How many baby Bigfoots do they typically have?
Well, I know twins have been seen multiple times. So I think they stay in kind of small family pods, and then maybe the males, when they reach a certain age, are probably go seek their fame and fortune outside of the family.
Okay. Okay. Sure they do. Do they have like marriage ceremonies and such like that? And do they celebrate holidays or anything?
That I do not know. I do not know.
Okay.
I mean, there are some people who swear that they've seen ceremonies and that they have gatherings, that they congregate the areas. I've never seen one. I've never met anyone who personally has seen that. I just read a lot, and sometimes you hear those. So is it possible? I would love to know whether they have if they do have a social structure. I'd love to know more about it. That would be awesome.
Well, see, there's just no way to tell because you'd have to be like a researcher in the forest. You'd have to locate. What do you call them? A pod? Is that what they're called?
You could.
Okay,
Yeah,
or a tribe maybe. I like tribe.
Yes.
But
yes.
you'd have to find one and then document or watch them for a long period of time. So that kind of information will be very, very slow to gather.
Right. And they'd have to kind of let you in. And I think their trust of humans takes a long time to build trust.
Well, by now you'd think somebody would have gained their trust. I mean, obviously.
I think they have. I think there's lots of people who have. But those people are so protective because it took such a long time to build their trust. So they're so protective of their families. You're not going to hear from them at all. They're not going to come on your show and talk about, what they know and where they live because they're going to protect these people at all costs because that's how they feel about them.
Well, I agree with you there. If I could find a Bigfoot, I would reach out to them and give them an invite to be on the show. I wonder if I could get a good Skype connection out there in the forest. That'd be the main problem right there.
That might be a little rough.
Well, but when that 5G network covers the entire planet, and that's going to make a lot of Bigfoots mad right there because I'm sure that some of the Bigfoot are running around in the forest because they don't want anything to do with civilization. They don't want any Wi-Fi out there. And
that's right. They're smarter than we are. That's what I think they are. Yeah, much smarter. I don't think they're as dangerous as we are.
Okay. We talk about UFOs and such. There's something called orbs. Have you guys ever seen orbs while you're out there looking for Bigfoot?
Absolutely, yes.
And what do you think those are?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Sybilla, where do you go from here? Are you going to continue your research and your expeditions until obviously you stated that you would inevitably like to make a living. Not that you don't want to get rich.
I'm not trying to get rich.
Right.
No,
you want to do that full time, which I could definitely understand that. So is that now sort of your pursuit to see how you can build up to that, or?
Yeah, I think it's a long-term goal to be able to just travel from community to community and work with witnesses in particular areas. I mean, how awesome would it be to work with individuals who are seeing the same family pod and document the faces of those, of those families.
It's interesting on that. I don't know what show I was watching, but it was a Bigfoot show, and I think they actually had drone, but they were showing diagrams through the forest, and they would say this one went that way and this one went that way. I mean, they had lines drawn on the graft and everything, like they were really tracking them. So to me, that was about the closest I've ever seen somebody showing what their existence and how they interact around humans.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you see yourself just continuing to be a part of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and doing these expeditions. And I mean, do you hope that one day they'll be discovered, or is you feel like the way you're doing it now, you want to continue to do rather than say, prove to the world that they're there.
Yeah, my purpose is not to prove to the world that they're there, because I already know that they're there. And I don't care if it's ever proven, by scientists that they're there. Science can be such a destructive process. Um, I don't care, and I kind of hope that they never are. It can remain a mystery as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I like the idea that there are still some mysteries out there.
Me too.
That's why I wanted to have you on the show. Obviously, we're talking about a mysterious creature. I always felt like there's kind of two worlds always out there, and one could be stuck in the mundane world of the natural world, so to speak, and go to Walmart and drive down the road. But I think if you sort of train yourself a little bit, you can see a lot more of this sort of secondary life that's going on, the sort of the supernatural, for lack of a better word,
Sure.
of the mysterious, synchronicities, which I have a lot of. These things are exciting to me. They keep me going. Man, I'd be bored to death in just being a part of the real world, because, look, I don't want to work my whole life, pay my taxes, and die off. I want to know what else is out there. So I do understand what you're saying there. Definitely much more interesting there. Well, Sybilla Irwin, what can people find on your website? And just take your time and tell us about it.
Well, it just I'm going to continue to blog, and I'm going to continue to put new witness sketches up there as soon as I get them done, and share with you the stories that people are, of their encounters, and how people are impacted by their encounters. Because to me, it's about the witness. It's not just about what they're seeing. I want to be an advocate for witnesses. I don't charge people for my witness sketches. So if you're a witness and you've got a really good look at their face, and you would love to have, to finally have it out of your head and on paper so that you can show others what you saw, then you just go to my website, hit the contact button, and, reach out to me, and then you and I can work together, and we'll put it on, and we'll get it out there for people. It's kind of cathartic, Daniel, for people, especially those that are struggling. There's something in the process of working on the sketch that helps to heal people and help them sleep a little easier once it's out of their head. So I'm all about helping witnesses.
Well, you certainly do a good job with those sketches. They're really very professional looking there. Well, Sybilla Irwin, I appreciate you coming on the Edge Television broadcast. Can we have you on again sometime?
Well, thank you, Daniel. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. We're going to let you go, and stay safe, and keep going with those encounters.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, that was Sybilla Irwin of Bigfoot Field Research Organization. Next week, Dr. Leo Galan's going to be with us, and then we're going to be bringing on Stan Dale and several others onto the Edge television broadcast. This program will begin to replay in the main player here shortly as we edit the video. We'll put the audio up in our TuneIn radio broadcast playlist, where it will join many other audios that are up there, play 24 hours a day on our TuneIn radio channel. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There you go. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to go down your contact list, spam everybody, and tell them about the Edge television broadcast. And so we definitely appreciate Sybilla coming on the Edge television broadcast. She was a great guest, and we do appreciate everything she does out there. And who can blame her, man? Looking around civilizations, maybe with some of the freak shows that's out there in the cities, maybe it is safer out there with the Bigfoot, as long as they don't eat you there. Well, Daniel for the Edge. Now, this is one happy Bigfoot. Let's take a look at this thing here. The one happy Bigfoot right there. And he's been a personal friend of mine the whole show. So hang on. As I get ready to sign off here. Daniel for the Edge. Bye-bye.